The $600 million settlement with Norfolk Southern over the East Palestine train derailment is officially approved. It brings some relief to those who suffered property damage or personal injury.
A lady can sue McDonald's for hot coffee and get millions. These families have been through hell. We've been through hell.
Not all people in East Palestine and surrounding communities are satisfied with the decision.
You are pathetic. You should be ashamed. You're killing kids for your own pocketbook.
A $600 million settlement that would resolve all class action lawsuits within 20 miles of its East Palestine, Ohio derailment. A settlement is intended to offset costs related to the February 2023 accident. More than 1 million pounds of hazardous chemicals were spilled into the soil, water, and air there.
So they're saying approximately $70,000 per household. So like in my case, there was 4 of us in our household, so that's approximately $17,000 each. Like, you get more for breaking your leg in a car accident than that, okay?
State and federal environmental officials say testing shows the town is now safe.
We don't even smoke in buildings anymore, public buildings, because secondhand smoke's bad, but they can blow up train pools of toxic chemicals right in town. I mean, it's just...
Lenny, this is Joaquin. He did a documentary a year ago. He's in the...
I saw it. I watched it.
Hasn't been back.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing to do is they're asking you to sign to accept and take the settlement that will be at the end of the year, whatever, without knowing what you're getting. Like, if it would be a big difference if I signed saying, yeah, I'll take it, and they said, well, you're going to get $9,000 instead of the $70,000 that we've set as a guideline. I mean, that's a big difference, and you're signing to take it, and you don't know. Or do you hold off and go after the railroad on your own? That's what nobody knows. It's still since day one, it's been the uncertainty about everything, and it's still that way today.
Can you explain the difference between opting out, opting in?
They offered or negotiated to settle with the residents of town for $600 million. If you live 1 to 2 miles from the derailment, which I am, they're estimating you'll get the check for $70,000. If you're at 3 to 4 miles, you get $30,000. If you're 5 to 7, you get $15,000, and it goes all the way up to 20 miles. You get like $250. So basically, just as an example for me, they're saying your family, and this is for the property only, not medical, but your family will get a check for $70,000 to cover your property. Out of that, any money that Norfolk had given you in the past year and a half, they'll take that off the top of that $70,000. And then they do a scale, like how many people are in your home or whatever, they give you points, or I'm not sure about it. So we don't know exactly, and the $70,000 was just based on the amount of people in the 600 million or whatever. Some people are gonna get more, some people are gonna get less. But you don't know what your family's gonna get. But you have to opt in if you want that check. You have to opt in by July 1st. If you opt out of it, then it's up to you to find a lawyer to represent you and go after the railroad. And that could take years. And they have the money to stall a lot, and it would be a lot.
What happens if you don't opt in or out?
So the class action, early on, these attorneys came in like vultures, like sharks. They would have these meetings and recruit all these people to sign up with them for this class action. Well, actually, at the time, it wasn't a class action. They were, I don't know if they were groups or if they were individuals, but the judge actually ruled that they were going to become a class action and put all these cases together. So you still had all these attorneys that were out there signing people up. So fast forward to this class action settlement, you know, we had not heard from any of these attorneys. None of them had asked us if we had personal evidence. You know, not that I'm saying, oh, these attorneys should have talked to me, but they should have talked to Unity Counsel. They know that we've been doing our own investigation, you know, but they never did. The lead plaintiffs never talked to the community. In fact, one of them, I asked them if they were a lead plaintiff, and they said no, and they lied to me. These are people that are supposed to be representing the class. So we get this class action settlement, and what they did is they appointed lead attorneys and the lead plaintiffs. Well, the lead attorneys are trying to take up to 27% off the top, like $180 million, to pay for their fees and for the costs that they have spent. And these attorneys that came in and signed people up are also taking a percentage. So basically, right now, we'll talk best case scenario, 1 mile zone. You know, they're saying approximately $70,000. And there's different amounts for different zones, but we'll just focus on this one zone. So they're saying approximately $70,000 per household. So like in my case, there was 4 of us in our household, so that's approximately $17,000 each. Like, you get more for breaking your leg in a car accident than that, okay? But it's also depending on factors. But they can't tell us what those factors are. There's also like extraordinary circumstances, but they can't tell us what's an extraordinary circumstance or who's going to decide that. You know, so there's all these questions. Like, basically, they can't tell you how much money you'll get until after you opt in. They also don't know the number of people that are going to be in it yet, you know, because they have the pot of money that they have to divide. So you basically were opting in with absolutely no information. It was chaos.
That 70 grand, is that, I mean, lawyers get a slice.
Yep.
Lawyers get a slice. I mean, is it tax state? Is it tax federal? I mean, these are.
Yeah, we don't know. It's just, and you're forced to make a decision. I did send an email out. I wrote a letter to the judge today asking her to extend, which a lot of people have, to extend the deadline to make that decision because we don't know what we're going to get. They don't even have the decency to say, hey, your family's going to get this amount right here. Take it if you want it. If you don't, that's fine. We don't know. So if everybody takes the money, they might not have the $70,000 for each family. You know, I could walk in there in December or January to get my money if I, you know, opt in, and they could say, hey, we're even. We gave you money to leave, take the girls, but we have no way of knowing.
I mean, is 70 grand per family, is that even enough to get a new home?
No.
A down payment on a home?
No. And it's not going to be the 70 grand. It's going to be less than that because just about everybody took money. They were offering $1,000 the day after it happened for an inconvenience fee. And now they're taking that, they're getting that back too. It's just, it makes you wonder if this was all, they knew exactly what they were doing. And they knew they were going to get the money back.
I think that we need to take the settlement and rework it. I think it needs to go to the judge. I think the judge needs to be aware of this NTSB final report, and I think she needs to analyze this heavily. I think she needs to rework the settlement to bring a fair and reasonable number that's truly going to impact everybody in the way that We were already, so much of us were more impacted. I don't know anybody that's actually been in contact with them when they agreed to the $600 million for the class, the lead plaintiffs.
Where did that $600 million, where is that money going?
So the lawyers are taking, the lawyers and the court fees are coming off the top of that. But also they're splitting it up based on mileage, like the closest, like 1 to 2 miles gets the most. It caps at 70 grand is what we're hearing. However, there's also the personal injury part of it. And if you opt into that, it maxes out at 10K. And that's supposed to cover your Medicare for life if anything arises. The class attorneys say 15 years is when you see the most serious health impacts, but so many of us have already experienced a lot of these things within the first year. So can you only imagine what 15 years is going to show us? I don't think 10K is going to be enough, considering some people have already experienced over $100,000 in medical fees for the first year. There's rare cancers, there's seizures, there's heart issues, there's a lot of problems the CDC is well aware of as well.
No, they announced that NTSB hearing clear back in, I think, January is when I saw the first article of when they were coming. So NTSB hearings had been scheduled. Everybody knew when it was coming. It wasn't like it was any kind of secret. And I think it was April or May when they became aware of this preliminary settlement.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
day before NTSB hearings, and when I heard that was a date, I called one of the lead attorneys and I said, I just don't understand. I said, the only reason why Norfolk Southern is trying to push this so fast is because they want to get it over with before the true nature comes out. He said, stop right there. And he got real cocky. He said, I am not going to listen to your conspiracy theories about Norfolk Southern's attorneys. They have your best interest at hand. And obviously he didn't know who he was talking to, because I said, you stop right there. After the last year and a half I've had, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. Now, once again, does it take a rocket scientist to know that Norfolk Southern did not hire attorneys that had residents' best interests in hand? That's not why you hire an attorney. I knew right then we were screwed.
All of the attorneys are overjoyed with what is being offered. So the class is the best option, stay with that. And when you read the paperwork, basically it says the attorneys have to say that, which is, it's terrible.
Just say that last part again.
It's in the documents that Norfolk submitted to the courts. It says basically you have to be in agreement with it. We had attorneys go up and show the paperwork, then highlight it and say, really read this. Like, it's telling the attorneys to agree with it and be happy with it. We have no one that wants to do individuals. We have lost so much of our own lives. We spent so much time in hotels. My son had to do online school. Most of our life has changed now to this point. Like I said, I'd be at a creek, camping.
If we weren't forced to make this settlement claim or whatever they're offering, I think it would help the city, like everybody in town. I think it helped their cases against Norfolk Southern a lot more since this has all been proven. But we're on a deadline to either opt into the lawsuit by July 1st or you don't. And that's not enough time to make that decision. Or get a hold of a lawyer and talk to a lawyer and figure out what's the best thing to do.
When is it due, you said?
By July 1st. We have to opt in or opt out. And if you opt in, you don't know what you're going to get. You're not guaranteed a certain amount of money. It's what they figure it out.
Because, let me back up 1 minute. So in my case, it'd be $17,000 per household member if we were getting anything, because they're also deducting reimbursement costs from your settlement. So like, for example, I think it was 5 months we were in an Airbnb. They were paying $5,000 a month. There are not a lot of Airbnbs around, so they all jacked their prices up. So virtually, I would have zero after they deducted those costs out of the approximate $70,000. How is that fair? How is that equitable? How is that adequate? Because I have chemical sensitivity, You know, I'm a redhead. I break out if I use Tide. You can imagine how I broke out with chemicals, you know?
Yeah, not, hey, let's poison the only world you've ever known. Let's potentially poison your house. Let's poison the water and the land that you live on. Let's force you out of your house. Let's not do all the data and research to ensure safety. Let's bring you back to your house and let you live there unexpected if you know if it's going to be dangerous or not for your family or yourself or for the future of the village, or it's going to poison the water. That's a hell of an inconvenience. Doesn't seem so minor to me, does it? You know, so an inconvenience fee that, you know, they give, you know, out of good faith maybe, because maybe it became more severe than what they were used to dealing with. So an inconvenience fee to an area that's already, you know, just getting by. You know, you have even the inconvenience fee was more money in a bank account than some people see in a month. You know, here in East Palestine, in this part of Ohio, and all across the world for that much, not just here. You know, so I would like to understand how they came up with, you know, $1,000 per person per household. It's a slap in the face to my children. You know, because my kid's life is priceless. Your life is priceless. Human life is priceless. So just to be able to come up with a quick number and throw at people, it sure is a good way to get most of those people not beating down your damn door.
Initially, most of the community meetings were really, it was very easy for them to get out of hand.
Say again, sir?
It was very easy for them to get out of hand, the meetings, because everybody's got their own situation. They want answers for that particular thing, you know, and it's kind of hard sometimes. You know, and then everybody, you know, the younger people are worried about their children. My wife and I, our kids are all grown, so we don't have to come at it from that aspect. But at the same time, I realize if I had younger children, I'd probably be far more upset than I am now. But it basically turned, initially at least, there wasn't a lot of information available, and what they had kind of came out piecemeal and parsed. And then people would get upset that their questions weren't being answered in the manner they thought, and so they really, the whole meeting devolved into just a shouting match and everything.
Do your fucking job and do it, you know, take care of people. You made this mess, right? Make sure people are safe. Don't bullshit them. Don't throw money at them, you know. We have a town hall meeting, right? The first town hall meeting since the derailment. And Norfolk Southern pulls out. They fear for their life. They've been threatened. Okay. We have 4,700 people that are afraid to go to their home. But they showed up. There was not 4,700 people, but I'd say damn near 1,000. At that point in time, they tell us they want to have a. They had, you know, from my knowledge, told our government that they're going to have an information fair now. You know, we're going to recommend an information fair. You know, we're not going to show face. We're not going to answer questions to the people that we put into this scenario. We're just going to have an information fair and educate yourselves. Stand in lines at little round tables on a black plastic floor, and, you know, hopefully you'll get the answers you're looking for. Bullshit. I wasn't having it. The people that showed up there that night that came from 3 hours away or 2 hours away, or maybe left their house that they'd been stuck in for 5 days because they didn't have a way out of it, they showed up, you know, to voice their concerns. They didn't show up to get educated on, you know, whatever the hell they wanted to tell us. So at that point in time, I recommended that we turn it into a town hall and that we basically tell Norfolk Southern to get bent and we're going to do this our way. Norfolk Southern at that point in time is not going to tell us how we're going to handle our citizens and how we're going to talk to them and how we're going to inform them, you know. They deserve to be heard. They deserve a voice. But the people of our town deserve a hell of a lot more than an information fair. They deserve to be heard, their concerns, their worries, their stories. We'll give you all this money for your land. That money, man, that Benjamin Franklin is an evil son of a bitch. When you just start giving it to this guy, when the money has so much power in our world that we live in here in America.
Find it. They knew if they downplayed the situation that they wouldn't have any access to, they wouldn't have any records of it. And they could easily dismiss it if they said like, the first step of it was like, they kept demeaning, or they would shrink everything down to like 1 or 2 chemicals. It was always like the vinyl chloride or maybe the butyracrylate, but there was like a dozen of them plus. When you mix them together synergistically, they're worse. They didn't want to monitor us. When they finally begrudgingly, like almost, opened a clinic in town, they were not even taking vitals. They weren't taking vitals, they weren't giving diagnosis, no any kind of prescriptions. They were telling us to go to a regular doctor. And I did go to my regular doctor. They didn't know what to do at all, and I had to ask for the blood test. I had to ask for the vinyl chloride test that they couldn't find the number to do, and they had no idea what to do other than just said, here's some steroids, and good luck. If it goes to the ER, or if it gets worse, go to the ER, and that's, or like some of them will say like stay out of the area, but it's like too vague, and they won't definitively say.
The local government. And then once this was announced, there was all this confusion because then these little groups of attorneys were coming back in, not the lead attorneys. Yeah. So they were giving everybody different answers when you were asking questions. So there was no people, all these different deadlines. People were really confused about that. Some people didn't receive notice. Some people got 2. Some people got 1 in their dead husband's name that's been dead for 20 years. Like all this confusion. So we asked to move the opt-out date back by the attorneys, and we asked them some questions, and they refused to move the opt-out date because they said the most desperate residents need their money now. The most desperate residents aren't going to get anything. We're going to be stuck. Chrissy Hilton, I don't care what anybody says, you go in her house, it is contaminated. She lives right on the creek. She's going to end up with $0 and have to go back to that home with her elderly parents.
I don't know too much other than that. I mean, people are trying to make the best of it that they can. The Norfolk and Southern is throwing a ton of money at this village. We don't qualify to be called a city because we're only 4,600 in a population, but and they're doing all kinds of feel-good things. But I think most people would prefer that they did long-term water care, health care. That's the things that seems to concern the younger people.
You get tired, and trust me, like the mental stress that's on me, and it's like every time I feel like I can't take anymore, somebody will come up to me. Just a couple weeks ago, like I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And I was meeting this reporter in East Palestine, and I'm like, this is the last thing I'm doing. Like, I need to focus on my family. Financially, I was out of work for a year. I'm the main breadwinner. Like, we're struggling. I'm like, I got to focus on my family. Me and my husband were facing divorce because he's like, this is all you do. So I went in to do this interview, and it was across the street from Circle K. So I parked at Circle K. And when I went walking back after the interview, there's this woman like sitting on her car. She was probably, I don't know, my age, a little bit older, maybe early 50s. And she said, I just want to thank you. She said, what you're doing for this community, so it's like for all the people that openly bash you, I mean, pictures of me on Facebook, how would you like to wake up to this every morning, and, bringing up stuff that I did when I was 19. And, you also have those people that thank you all the time. But you also feel like the weight of the world's on your shoulders because these people are depending on you. And that's a lot. That's a lot. to have on my shoulders. I'm one person. I'm just a person. You know, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not, but you know, even basic needs, where can I find water? We've not gotten one bottle of water from our government, and most people are still drinking bottled water, cooking in it, some people bathing in it. You know, especially with the price of groceries right now, and, you know, the fact that we're part of Appalachia, we're one of the poorest counties in the state of Ohio, you know, and the other thing is who sticks up for the people that can't stick up for themselves? I think like 4% of this county has an undergraduate degree, and we have a lot of people on Social Security for having below average intelligence. So who sticks up for them? You know, so I feel like there's just so much weight on my shoulders with this class action opt-out being yesterday. Do you know how many complete strangers reached out to me and said, what do I do? I don't know. I didn't even know what I was doing until yesterday morning. You know, I've had people message me and say that their kid's bleeding out their anus. What hospital can they take the kid to? Because all the doctors around here are making fun of you. Oh, another train derailment, you know, victim, but they're not even trained in chemical exposure. You know, so there's a lot of just really poor bedside manner by the doctors around here that, you know, even myself, like I get tired of being told that I have an upper respiratory infection. You know, I was on antibiotics like 3 times in a row, on steroids 3 times in a row. 47 years old. I've had a lot of respiratory infections in my life, and never once did I have one that wouldn't go away. Even, you know, to this day, the stuff that I cough up out of my lungs. And it's, you know, it's not just when you talk about like what Norfolk Southern took from you. Like before this, I was a very proud American. You know, my grandpa, World War II vet, God rest his soul, passed away 2 years ago. He was a very proud Marine, very heavily involved with, you know, some of the honor flights and getting interviewed for, you know, the TV shows that they did on HBO with Tom Hanks. And, you know, that was always very much part of the family growing up, is that, you know, grandpa was in World War II. You know, my dad, because his dad was, you know, the veteran, is if you saw someone in uniform, you thanked them for their service. It didn't matter if you were at the bank, the grocery store, you know, you saw an American flag and you showed respect. And when we were driving to Washington, D.C., the second time we went, there was this guy jogging and he was holding an American flag on the pole. And this might sound hoopy, but normally you'd roll down the window and yell, you know, something, God bless America, or, you know, something. That's just how we were. And I cried. I cried. Because now it's like when I look at my government, it's almost like I've been living in this fantasy world. Like, yeah, we all know our government officials get money from corporations and make decisions based on money. But I didn't think it was to the extent of human lives. You know, and it's like the EPA. Like I said, I defended them. I know what I learned in school. I know what the EPA did, but I'd never interacted with the EPA. And shame on me for hearing about places like Flint and thinking, EPA's there, everything's fine. You know, it's just kind of like your whole world fell apart. You know, and not just that, my hometown. Like, I could never go back there and live after the way I've been targeted and the things that have been said about me. I would never want to live in a community again that treated people the way I've seen some of the community treat other members. You know, the fact that I want to go door to door in my own community and I don't know if I'm safe to do that anymore. You know, the fact that my mom lived around the block. You know, recently, my last trip to DC, I lost my car. Whole nother story, broke down, got impounded, I couldn't get it out. So I'm stuck out here with no vehicle. You know, I'm 20 minutes from East Palestine. Who am I going to call to come bring me a gallon of milk? You know, when I was in town, I had 25 people there that I could have called. So it's like those things. When I was working full time, I'd come home from work and my mom would have a 3-course meal made from scratch on the table. Because, you know, I was always raised, there was always extra kids at our house and nobody ever left hungry. So my mom has the same problem I do. She overcooks. You know, so how do you replace coming home from work after a hard day, knowing that you have to cook dinner and take care of your kid and having dinner there? You know, those are the things that are priceless that Norfolk Southern can never, ever give back to us.
Groundwater. Yeah. I mean, we don't even smoke in buildings anymore, public buildings, because secondhand smoke's bad, but they can blow up train fulls of toxic chemicals right in town. I mean, it's just, the public health, I've called them. I've been doing my own little investigations. I work at a local restaurant here. I've asked over 450 people locally, do you know anybody that has announced a pregnancy in the last 6 months? I asked this at the 1 year mark of the derailment. I had 3 people say yes. So when I call the health department and ask who's keeping track of these numbers, there's nobody. There's nobody keeping track of the birth rates. I don't know anybody that's had a baby recently, which is kind of unusual. Definitely unusual. I'm not saying that it's related, but it could be. I don't know. Nobody's keeping track of these numbers.
Yeah.
If a lady can sue McDonald's for hot coffee and get millions, these families have been through hell. We've been through hell. And it's not about the money. We've suffered financially in property values and everything. And I think the more reports come out and the more people that get sick, it's going to be harder and harder to sell your property in town. Unless you get somebody from Norfolk Southern coming up from Atlanta, but I don't know. We're still back to the unknown.